Welcome back to 4 Geeks by Geeks, the place where geeks come to geek out. As always, I'm Poser.
I'm T.
And we still don't know what the hell we're doing.
What are we doing here? I always forget how much of a banger our intro music is, though.
Right?
It always catches me off guard every week. I'm like, damn, this is pretty
one of
good.
those things that just get stuck in your head, and I'm never mad about it.
Yeah.
That was created by a very talented man named Isaiah way back in the day, just for us. Shout out to you, Zay.
Gonna be honest, I didn't know that, so I just
Yeah.
learned new information.
We didn't rip off that song. It was composed for us. That's how cool we are, T.
The real question is, has YouTube ever tried telling us to fuck off and it's not ours?
Not for that song.
Well, that's a plus. It's just
For
every
a lot
other
of other
song
songs that we did. That's not ours. I do the right things. I put the attribution in the captions, but you know, it's just not always. Look who's back with me, you guys. I'm not solo. I have
For
a
now.
co-host.
We'll see how long it lasts. We'll see how long my chest can handle it.
The people want to know, how have you been feeling?
Not fucking great. Lost 10 pounds, though, so I really can't be mad at that. I might
Doesn't he
get
look
sick
great?
more often just to lose another 10. Is that unhealthy? Absolutely. Is that going to stop me? Unfortunately not.
Yeah, fuck Ozempic. Just go
Yeah.
kiss a bird right now or whatever you did.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not 100% sure how it happened, but I'm just ready for it to be fucking over.
Well, I'm glad you're back and at least well enough to hang out with me again because, T, I've been doing this solo last like 3 sessions and no one should allow that.
But you're so good at it.
No one's asking the good questions.
I just say what's on my mind, and that's not always a good thing.
Well, that's the problem. There's usually not much on my mind. It's just empty static.
Have you thought about getting 80 of them HD things? Because it's pretty helpful.
Ooh, do they sell that with the Ozempic?
Probably. I'd be very perplexed to find out that you could not give somebody ADHD with medication.
I know what I'm falling into a rabbit hole tonight about.
I would genuinely be perplexed to find out that there's not a medication to give somebody ADHD.
How to catch ADHD. No, I'm sure that I have some form of it. It's never been diagnosed.
Oh,
but
same.
I'm a millennial, so we all think that we have it.
Yeah, we're all a little bit autistic. We all have ADHD. We're all OCD. Whatever letters we feel like throwing in to define our personality because we're too scared to go to therapy.
I blame SpaghettiOs shaped like alphabet.
Damn, DSB really throwing me under the bus. Fuck. He's not wrong, but damn.
If T is the adult in the room, we're all sort of doomed. You're right.
He's not wrong. He
He's
didn't
not
have
wrong.
to say it, but he's not wrong.
But hey, guys, if this is your first Geek Out Sesh, this is par for the course. We do this each and every Monday, 8:30 Eastern Standard, live here on Twitch and YouTube. Or you can always watch it back on podcast or YouTube and catch up on
podcast, don't we?
Yeah. It's
I'm
still
gonna
a
be
thing.
honest. I don't think we hit as a podcast. I think you need to see our faces to really understand and appreciate the bullshit in our lives.
I mean, look how good looking we are. Of course not. We've learned immediately 6 years ago with PK. At the time we filmed it as a podcast, but did footage just in case we wanted to use it. And immediately we learned, oh no, this is a YouTube channel. This is a Twitch channel. Got it.
While you have a voice for podcast, I never did, and let's be honest, Eugene never did either. It's just not quite there. But Eugene's got the face for YouTube.
He's got a great voice. It's soothing.
I didn't say it wasn't a great voice, but it's not a podcast voice.
What's the difference of his voice and my voice in regards to podcast worthy?
Because you have you have the trained talent to get into the mindset of just being a podcast voice. Eugene is diagnosed ADHD and cannot pay attention long enough to commit to a podcast. This man had the audacity. So we've recorded a show called Butt Buddies together. We recorded the pilot like, this is going to be our show.
Is this for the OnlyFans?
No, surprisingly not. But he texted me this last week. He's like, hey, you got time this weekend so we can talk about Butt Buddies and see how we can bring that back? I was like, yeah, man, absolutely. Knowing as I'm typing this message, like, I won't talk to this man again for 6 months.
No. And for clarification, it was BUT, buddies.
Yes. Not 2 T's.
No, different Google search.
Different Google search, yeah.
Different incognito window.
I wonder where that pilot is. I don't know if he has it or I has it, but it exists somewhere.
No, DSB. Butt Buddies is not a command on Twitch.
Not yet, at least.
But you know what is QOTD, which is the question of the day. And I want to know, name a movie you would love to play inside as a TTRPG.
Home Alone.
It might be relevant to tonight's Geek Guest. You say Home Alone?
The first time I've had an answer, and the answer is Home Alone.
Would that be a one-shot, or is this a whole, like, year-long campaign?
No, so I was thinking about it, and what you do is you play it as, like, Monster of the Week, right? But what you are is you're, like, dimensional traveling chaos gods, right? And what happens is anytime you find a kid that's left home alone, you teleport to their world and you ensue chaos to have so you're babysitters, right? But you create this nonsensical world around them where they're entertaining themselves and not realizing or not paying attention to the fact that they've been abandoned by their families. So you're not actually putting children in harm's way by having people try to break into their home, but you're these little chaos entities that create the nonsense to keep them safe and occupied while their parents are away.
Wow, you have given that so much thought.
Yeah, in about 6 minutes, I came up with that.
And I was just going to say Avatar the movie because I liked it.
Which one?
The first one.
Oh, M. Night Shyamalan's live action of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
No! Don't you put that on the internet?
I don't even know if is that M. Night Shyamalan. That joke's funnier if it is, but I don't know if it is.
It is M. Night Shyamalan. He destroyed Avatar live action. No, I met with the blue people. The Fern Gully Smurf people. I loved the movie. And I love Pandora.
At least my clickbait's funnier than your answer, personally. But
I have to move now. Jeez.
I'm gonna be honest.
I'm
fairly certain we fixed the live-action Avatar movie when we did. What the fuck was that podcast called?
Film Forge.
Film Forge.
Another failed podcast of yours.
Another failed podcast of mine. Yes, with Eugene.
We are giving our guest tonight so much faith in us, and I think he's thrilled that he decided. In our
defense, we met because he knew us already. None of this should be shocking.
That's right. We're famous. Just a CEO of a company happens to know who we are. It's fine, you guys. No, but it's yes, James Cameron Avatar. Thank you, Witch Rising. Thanks for having my back, unlike my co-host. No, we're super excited for tonight. It's gonna be awesome. If you are one of the thousands, honestly, thousands,
literal thousands.
I look at the numbers that have tuned in to City of Mist campaign. That was the last one that TDM'd. It was a really cool campaign.
Ended like shit. Don't watch it.
It's great.
Watch like the first 30 episodes, and you're like, man, this is a great stopping point. Just stop there.
And then hop over to Cloudscape, the current Fate Core campaign.
Yeah.
Which also is going to end like shit. Just we haven't gotten there yet. But he reached out a while back, and he's like, hey, I've been watching these. These are good. I'd love to hang out. Let's collab on some things that I've got going. And we're like, hell yeah. And should we have you on as a geek guest and hang out for a night? And he said, hell yeah. And now he's regretting every decision he's made since that point. But too late. He's here now. So everybody, please drop some emojis, some fire, some claps in the chat for our geek guest tonight, Mr. Dave Scott from Evil Genius Games.
Yay! I am not regretting this at all.
Not yet. Challenge accepted.
It's still early.
Woo! Let's do it.
Dave,
thank you for the applause.
How the heck? That was live here. It's all the people that I've trapped.
The studio audience.
Oh, we forgot to tell you about the studio. Oh, there's always that one thing we forget. It's the live studio audience. That's what we usually forget to tell people about.
The mostly
Always
live studio audience.
One day we're going to prank some people. We're going to act like we're not in our places. And we're going to have a real live studio audience for one single random geek out session. And then just
your bedroom will expand out, and then there'll
be
like an audience and like chairs and all nine.
Yep.
Live at Studio 6.
I've always wanted to live in a sitcom, and my dreams will come to fruition. Dave Scott, how are you doing tonight? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing great. I'm hanging out with you guys, drinking a little bit of vodka soda just to ease the tensions, and like let's hang. I love it.
Hey,
We have heard that hanging with us is quite an anxiety driving moment, so please suck it down.
Glad to be here.
So I want to hear from your side first, like to talk about that story that we shared, how we first got connected, because you really reached out to us and nobody reached out to us. So that was really cool. And I remember like when we first got the email, T saw it first and he's like, dude, check the email. And I checked. I'm like, what? Someone noticed us? He knows who we are?
My real question is if we've ever really pulled a T-Pain and we just don't check our emails well enough to know how many opportunities we've missed.
All that I see is spam of like, hey, we in your Instagram, we can get you 45 more thousand followers.
I've been reaching out to you guys for 3 years. I just kept getting mailboxes full. So I don't know.
That tracks.
That you guys were super popular. No, listen, like, I love my game. I think it's super cool. I wanted to get the word out. So I started doing some research and found some people I thought were really cool and reached out. And, didn't know whether or not anyone would respond, but was just like, hey, yeah, like, I'd love to tell my story. Love to talk about what we do here. And you guys responded. So here we are.
See, kids, see what happens when you literally just respond to your emails?
Sometimes that Nigerian prince really does want to help you out.
No, but that was really cool. I'm so glad that you reached out.
My pleasure.
And we can't wait to try out Everyday Heroes. We'll get into that later and really what that is. First, we have to wrap up a Fate Core campaign where I have no idea how to wrap it up. Don't tell my players.
That's the joke
montage.
Is we never actually know.
I think that's what T did in City of Mist, right? Just a quick montage. Yeah, a little bit of everything at once.
Fucking terrible decision.
But Dave, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do as a geek.
Yeah, so gosh, I'm Dave Scott. I'm the CEO of Evil Genius Games. We make a modern 5e inspired game called Everyday Heroes. It's actually based on a game that was launched 20 years ago called D20 Modern by the amazing Jeff Grubb, Bill Slavicsek, of course I'm going to forget everyone else, but all these amazing artists and designers from Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast. And we actually refreshed it for 5th edition. So really excited to actually have this book on the shelves now for about, 2 years or so.
Has it already been 2 years? That seems like it's flown by.
Yeah, April of 2023 is when we first got it out the door. Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
What was that like, that first moment that you shipped your first box?
Oh my God, it was really cool. Well, first of all, the creation experience was wonderful. So I actually met Jeff Grubb when I was working at Amazon. And for those of you guys who don't know, Jeff Grubb worked for TSR and then Wizards of the Coast for 20 plus years, responsible for amazing things like Spelljammer. And was one of the 4 lead creators for D20 Modern, which when I was a kid was like one of my favorite jams. I like Modern. Like, give me the hero system. Give me GURPS. Give me Palladium Press. Give me Top Secret. Give me like all that stuff. Give me Spycraft. I loved all that stuff, right? And so I was a huge fan of D20 Modern. And so I met him. His eyes met mine across the cafeteria. And
he was love at first sight.
Over to him and said, I'm your biggest fan. Let's have lunch. I'd like to buy you a beer. And he said, well, I never turned down a beer. So we grabbed beer. I geeked out over all the amazing creations he'd created. And then I said, we should just reboot this thing for 5th edition. It'd be amazing. There's so many fans of D20 Modern. Like, this would be revolutionary. What do you think, Jeff? And he said, hell no. Few more beers, I asked him again. He just said no. Few more beers, he said maybe. And then a week or two later, we found designers and started writing the game. And it was super fun. It was so much fun to kind of reconceive this 20-year-old product that I've been in love with my entire life. And then sort of to see it sort of in physical copy was also just an amazing achievement.
So what was the thing that like wore him down during that week? Did you just keep sending him to his house? Threats?
No, you know, I mean,
Goofies.
you know, what's funny about it is, and we actually did a documentary on D20 Mod and the making of, and we brought, by the way, Rich Redmond is one of the other ones, and Charles Ryan's the fourth, and we brought all four on and we talked about it, and as you could probably imagine, when you write a game like that and it's lived for so long, you always have things that you do differently when you came back to the product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it was like, he was like, gee, like, if I were to do this product again, here's the things I would change. And I think that was part of the reason why he was kind of excited, was because he could actually come back and fix some of those things. And not only that, but he brought back Stan, he brought back Michelle Slavicic, who both worked on the original product and originally.
Oh, cool.
We brought back Rich Redmond and Owen Casey Stevens, who didn't work on the original project but worked on some supplements. And so, you know, we really had a really fun blast from the past of people who had worked on the original project, you know, in 2002 through 2006.
That's so cool that like it retained its like original dream team almost.
Yes, it was. And then we also brought some new people on his board. You know, the real workhorses of the project were Siegfried Trent, who was friends with Jeff and was famous for the Netbook of Feats. And then Goober Ramsley, who we found on DM's Guild, who came in and just felt like a glove with our team. You know, we had a really good working team that built in my opinion, really one of the best role-playing systems out there.
Okay, we're going to get into why it's one of the best, but take us back to little baby Davy Scott. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
How did you do that? Which hand signal?
The Big Bang Theory.
I want one of these.
I don't know. It's just attuned to my karma or something. I don't know. I think it's a cantrip I have apparently.
It's a great cantrip.
Baby Dave. So I started playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was in 6th grade. I went away to sleepaway camp and they were playing this crazy game, this module called White Plume Mountain. Okay. And I was like, what? A griffin? What? Sphinx riddles? What? And I just fell in love after that. And I've been playing ever since. And I still play today with my friends from high school and college. And D&D is always and will always be like my first love.
Yeah. Even with all these new indie games at our disposal now, you still stick to the core.
I do, yeah. And not only that, but like, listen, I'm a huge Pathfinder fan. Shout out to Sacramento Pathfinder Society, which I've been a player for many years, and huge Starfinder fan. Love that game. But you know, D&D will always be my first love. It was the first thing I ever learned. It just built who I am, and I still remember my first character. So, you know, just always shout out to the OG.
Always. I didn't tell you, well, at least not on camera, I didn't. I started a D&D club with 3rd and 4th graders today.
What? You did not tell me their age group. That changes my answers considerably on what you should be playing with.
Well, tough. We're doing the Lost Mines of
Fandolin. Okay, that's not terrible. But you probably could have geared them.
Grade.
You could have geared them towards something like Root. You could have done something like Unfamiliars. Unfamiliars, I think, would hit very, very well with that age range. But
nope, we're going hard.
Now, I gotta say, my son is in 2nd grade, and he's got a best friend named Ian. And Ian carries around the monster manual with him. He's like practically
nice.
And so I was like, you want me to teach you how to play D&D one day? He's like, yeah. So we're going to throw down one of these days, and they're going to have a good time. My son is very much a thief, scoundrel, sort of rogue type for sure.
Oh, yeah? So what? That's him, but what character would he play?
I don't... But I'm bump. Yes,
I have something for that. Do I have a reaction for that? There we go. Got it.
All right. So I got to ask. So T and Bozer, what were the first classes you guys ever played for Dungeons and Dragons?
Druid, Dragonborn Druid.
Nice.
Oh, really? I never knew your first. Mine was a Dragonborn Barbarian, and T was my first DM. I started much later. I get so jealous of those of you that started like at a young age. I didn't find D&D until I was like 30.
Oh, wow.
And
that was about 10 years ago, wasn't that?
Shut up.
So, like, what did you do as a kid? Do you, like, do stuff like sports?
No, I tried
he's
them.
A theater kid. It's the problem that it took him this long was he was already in the fandom and just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
By the time he realized, he was already 6th level.
Right. I'm like, I can do what already? No, I did all this. Like, I tried the sports. I wasn't good at anything until I found theater, but I had no idea. Like, I was trying to play D&D like on the playground, just living in that world, you know?
Yeah.
Pretending I'm a dragon and fighting people. I didn't know you could just sit at a table with your friends and they'd also play with you. You didn't have to do it.
Eat Cheetos. Yeah, it's a good time.
So then this love of D&D has always stuck with you all your life. And is Evil Genius, like with the Everyday Heroes, was that your first endeavor into creating something of your own, or at least working with others to create something, or had you done
it totally was, right? Like, so I spent most of my time in marketing. So worked for large companies like Amazon and Twitter, and then also worked in tech and stuff like that. And that was really fun, but it was always like my hobby. So get this, I'll tell you how old I am. I've been going to Gen Con since Milwaukee. And it's always been Milwaukee. And it has always been like my love. Like my vacation, and like totally dug it and have great memories and stuff like that. So it's always been like my vacay, my like escapism. It's never been my job. And so this is my first opportunity to make it my job. And that was super exciting for me.
And so Everyday Heroes is 2 years old from when it like launched, but how long had you been working on it prior?
Just about a year. I mean, it was pretty quick to put together.
That's good. We had a baseline already.
Yeah, we had 5th edition, and then we had D20 Modern. And all we had to do was be like, wait, hold on. When D20 Modern came out, there were no mobile phones. Let's go fix that. There's stuff like that you had to tweak. There's things that we wanted to do, but we had a really nice blueprint, which was great. And then we had a very strong vision of what we wanted to do with it. So when you put those together, it was really straightforward. We didn't have a lot of conflict and a lot of issues around what we wanted to bring to market. And so it was a really pleasurable experience putting that book together.
Okay. So tell us about Everyday Heroes. Like if I've never heard of it and I want to get sold on it, what do I need to know?
Well, so Everyday Heroes follows the D20 Modern format, which is that the first thing you do is you create an archetype. So you choose your archetype. You can be a strong hero, an agile hero, a tough hero, a smart hero, a wise hero, or a charming hero. And then once you actually choose your archetype, then you get to choose your class. So if you're a strong hero, you can do something like a MMA wrestler. If you're a smart hero, then you can choose like a scientist. If you're a charming hero, you can pick someone like a leader. And everything follows from that sort of archetype. Then what you do is you choose your background, and your background could be anything like grew up rich, to grew up on a farm, to grew up on the streets. And then you pick your profession. Your profession could be, hey, I'm an FBI agent. I'm a Yakuza gang leader. I'm a this or that. And when you combine all those things, that forms all the basis of your character. That's where you get all your attribute bumps. Yes, MMA Wrestler is super fun. That's where you get all of your special feats, things along those lines. And that's sort of how you build your character at first. We really wanted to make this like very much like action films. And one of the action films that we were inspired by was Die Hard. I wanted to play John McClane.
Yeah.
And one thing about John McClane was that all he wore was a t-shirt and jeans. So we knew, for example, the concept of armor class had to change because no one's rolling around wearing chainmail. But yet he still was decently difficult to hit. So we had to build like a new defense system, which was based off of your primary attribute. So there are little changes like that. But for the most part, if you know 5th edition, you know exactly how to play your game from jump.
Okay, so like current D&D 5th edition players, they don't have to basically learn a rule set. It's just like changing, like reskinning it almost.
Can I just double click on which Rising said? Dude didn't have shoes. He did not even have shoes. Exactly. I love that's my favorite part of the movie, where it's like, dude does not have shoes. And we wanted that. We absolutely wanted to have that as sort of the ethos of this game. Yeah, bang on that perfectly. Yeah.
So then it's easy to jump into if you're like a current D&D.
Super easy. And I actually like to think that almost with a good GM, anything's easy to jump into, because I really think that the rules really support the storytelling. But it should be very familiar, because it's a world you're familiar with, because it's modern day, and it's a system that you're familiar with, because if you know 5e, you know our system.
Does it have like a canon like built in, kind of like D&D already does? If you want to dip into that, or
Yeah, not
all
really.
about creating your own.
We really built it as a tool set. And then what we did is we went out to movie studios and we licensed these amazing movie worlds to create canon. So we actually signed 8 deals and we released 8 different cinematic adventures, all with different worlds that you can play in. So if you didn't want to create a generic setting of your own, and by the way, most of our customers do that, you could jump into the Rambo and do that. You can jump into Crow and do that. You can jump into Pacific Rim and do that. And the world's your limit, in terms of how you want to customize it and build it. But what I love is hearing all the stories of all the homebrewers who have jumped in and created their own worlds based on their own imagination and interpretation of modern day.
That's sick. Did y'all catch that? You can play in movies, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm just going to show that on screen for those of anybody that maybe looked away or wasn't paying attention. So again, in the chat, you can use Command Evil Genius like you have been. And Dave Scott has been so generous that if you go on, you love it, you throw it in your cart and you use Geek Out 10, then you can get 10% off your first rule set. But this is evilgenius.com. Go check it out. And you're telling me that these are licensed, like you worked with the license agencies to be able to bring people into Total Recall, Highlander, Rambo, The Crow, Kong, Pacific Rim, all of it.
Absolutely. And what's really beautiful about it is, and don't tell anyone I told you this, but you can mix and match them. So one of my favorite actual plays is where they actually mixed and matched Highlander with The Crow to create this whole new world that's totally rad.
Sick.
So there's no reason why your Highlander, because he's immortal, can't hop into your Ravenloft game, and then after he kills Strahd, he hops into a Jaeger and then fights Kaiju.
I'm picturing Kong and Pacific Rim easily going together.
So I am very curious. Outside of Kong, most of these, and arguably Crow, if we ever actually see that come to the light of day, are older IPs. Is it easier to get IPs for things that are no longer actively in production versus more things that we're seeing on the horizon? Or is there like a line between what you can and can't get for something like this?
So this actually represents all the movies I love. Okay. It was like, I started the company, I'm going to make the stuff that I want to play with. But, the reality is it's not easy to get these licenses. I had to build relationships over several years in order to even kind of convince them that this is something they want to spend their energy on. But the great news is that while we did 8, I could have done 20 because I built those relationships. So stay tuned. We're gonna be announcing 4 more relatively soon. And we'll be going forward from there. So every couple of years, we'll do another 4. And the ones that we're talking about are really, really fun. I'm super excited. I can't wait to announce them when they happen.
Do we get a sneak peek? I want to know. He says, nope.
Well, here's what I'll tell you, which is that, Everyday Heroes is based on modern. So anything from, the gunpowder age to the near future. And now, right now, as you're well aware, we're working on Intergalactic Heroes, which is our sci-fi toolbox. And you can imagine some of the great IP that would sit on top of that.
Yeah, I'm imagining it. Okay, so if you haven't caught on, y'all, this man's a beast, and he just keeps doling out more and more and more, and it's only been like 3 years. Really, since this adventure started for you.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate the fact that people actually like the games. If you go on to drive through, it's almost a perfect 5-star for every single game we've created. And I'm just very, very fortunate that I work with amazing designers, amazing writers, amazing artists, and we put together products that actually people like. So it's not like we're just throwing stuff out to throw stuff out, which makes me really proud. Really proud of what we've done. Big shout out to my team. And
in a short amount of time.
In a short amount of time, yeah. I mean, we really raced to get some of these products out. We'll never do that again. But in a short amount of time, we put out some really great stuff, and I'm very proud.
Okay, so we have Everyday Heroes. We have the cinematic adventures built on top of that, if you want. And then You said soon Intergalactic Heroes is coming?
Yeah, so Intergalactic Heroes is being worked on right now by lead producer Brian C.P. Steele. Brian C.P. Steele is responsible for games you might know, like Transformers and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers by Renegade Studios.
Nice.
And he has led a team to create this amazing toolbox for science fiction. So my perspective is I love science fiction, and it's hard to find a generic science fiction system. So I play Starfinders with my buddies at Sacramento Pathfinder Society. I love Starfinders. I don't think Starfinders is science fiction. I think it's fantasy in space. It's like Spelljammer. It's great. And I love stuff like the Star Wars role-playing game, the Dune role-playing game, but those are so tied to the IPs that you really can't do your own thing. And when I grew up, I used to play a game called Star Frontiers, which I loved, which was a generic space system that was designed by TSR and Wizards of the Coast. And so we sought out to create something like that, a toolbox which is generic enough that you can create your own science fiction world. But then, of course, on top of that, we put on our own campaign setting on top of it called Throne World. So we have our own campaign setting, but then on top of it, we got a tool set for you to create any type of alien science fiction space adventure that you would like to actually go on.
I'm sold. 10%
It's
off.
so
I'm
good.
going to get
It's
it right
so
now.
good. Yeah. We have a really innovative space combat system because everyone wants to know what that's like. We got something like 11 alien races that we created from scratch. We even have our version of the Force called the Tide, where you can incorporate that into the game, which changes your fate as you roll dice and things along those lines. It's got some really killer mechanics that I actually love, absolutely love.
How do you do the space battles? Like with ships chasing each other through asteroid fields?
Yeah, so big ups to Brian
mechanics of
C.P.
that?
Steele. One of the things that we did is we looked at all the other space battles, and what we hate about space battles is there's a pilot, and they're doing all the rolls, and everyone else is sitting around going, turn left, turn right. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing else for anyone to do unless maybe you're sitting on a turret or whatever.
Right.
And so basically what we do is we create combat situations, and in each situation, everybody has a role to play. So you can choose what station you're on and how that influences the game. And then if you don't, you can actually you cheer people on, which basically gives a help action to another person, allows them an advantage on their role. So everyone's got a role to play throughout the process. The higher you roll in that particular situation, it affects the outcome of the next action that's taken. So there's a momentum that goes along with our Starship combat. That's really cool, really innovative, and I can't wait to beta test it with you one of these days.
Is it anything like the Millennium Falcon ride at Disney World?
You know what's so funny? So I stood for 4 hours to watch the go of that ride, and it broke like right before I was going to get on. So I've never done the ride, sadly.
It's the most infuriating thing, especially if you do it with a 12-year-old.
I'm sure. Yeah.
We took my family vacation there.
Fast. That's all I got to say.
Honestly, it would have been worth it for that. One person's going left, one person's going right, one's just up and down. It's just like I've never been more ragey about my niece in my life until that moment.
Is that the Rise of the Empire?
That's a different ride.
Oh, okay, that's the one that broke on me, and I was like, "Oh, I hate you."
I got to the end of that one, and it's he looks like a fish. It's a trap. What's his name?
Yeah, Mon Calamari, Grand Admiral. How do I not know this? I'm like the hugest Star Wars fan. I mean,
That's right.
Akbar.
There it is. Thank you. We would have never lived that down if we couldn't remember. But I don't know if you went to the one in Florida or out in California, but he was like completely sideways, and his chamber was dark, and you could still hear
was
his
he
voice.
Like drunk or something?
He was like, "Good job, you made it," and like,
the animatronics broke down. Is that what's going on?
Akbar. Thank you, DSB.
Admiral Akbar. This is a trap.
So is this like, clearly this is not the end game for you, because you just keep making more and more and more. So like, what's the like when you envision Evil Genius Games in 5 years, 10 years, what's that look like?
Yeah, one of the lessons that I really learned coming into this industry is that I thought that I was releasing Everyday Heroes for me. It was my product. But what I realized was that when it got into the hands of my customers, it became their product, and they breathed life into it. And it became our product at that point in time. So one thing that I always loved about D20 Modern was the ecosystem of businesses and other designers that were surrounding it to be able to help people create stories with that system. And that's my long-term vision. I want to enable other game designers to come on and build games based on my system and actually make money while doing it. So I'm really, really proud about the fact that we've released Sidekick now, which is sort of like a D&D Beyond for our product. We've released over 61 products on there. So in addition to the 8 cinematic adventures, we've got an MIB sort of clone called The Agency. We've got Extraterrestrial Encounters adventures. We've got the Santa's Commando adventure where you can be, a gingerbread man carrying an Uzi. We've created all these other storylines that are built around it because what we want to do is inspire other creators to build on top of our platform as well. And now we have a half dozen game designers that are building their own systems, their own stories, their own adventures, their own source books on our base system. And I'm excited to really amplify their work and get that out there so that people can actually experience their work using the Everyday Heroes system. So I actually see this as sort of as a ground floor of this amazing building that's being built by the entire community.
That's unheard of.
Well, except that, if you take a look at DM's Guild, DM's Guild does that for D&D, and D20 Modern had a huge ecosystem, like, people like Mongoose Publishing and Cobalt Press, they really, cut their teeth on, building off 3.5. And so I actually think this is the way to build a community listen, we can't tell every single modern story. There's pirate stories, Western stories, the Roaring Twenties, Civil War. There's so many stories out there that even if I hired 100 developers, we couldn't develop every story. But if I can encourage you to write for it, you can. And that's what we want to do. We want to be the ultimate modern day solution for telling any sort of story that anyone wants to tell.
And I love that. And yet my Spidey sense is going off with, like, T has very strong feelings about what happened with Wizards of the Coast a few years ago.
I stand on business. I will burn any future bridge that comes our way. Fuck you, Wizards, until you get your shit together.
But it's because, like, they created a community over the last 40 years, and then they just kind of shot themselves in the foot by making it a capitalistic thing. And so I love where you're coming from. Tell me this is real.
Yeah, listen, like they got, it sounded like they got a little greedy, right? They got a little jealous that people were making money off their IP, and I get it, I guess, right? But listen, we still make money. We still make money on the core rulebook, the core system, whatever. But like what I would love to see is I'd love to see more people making money in this industry and having a living wage, right? And so I'll give you an example. Siegfried Trent, who is one of our game designers that designed Everyday Heroes, he just actually created his own label where he's going to be building his own adventures based on Everyday Heroes. And I love that, right? Because now he can do whatever he wants to do and build the kind of stuff he wants to build. It's still built on our platform, and he can tell more stories than we could ever tell. And we're going to support him. And we don't make any money off that license. We give it to him for free. But we're going to promote the heck out of him because we want him to tell as many stories as he can tell. And so, I'm just a big believer in that, honestly. Big fan.
So Evil Genius Games will one day be the TTRPG version of FGBG, where we make no money. We just tell other people's stories.
We'll make a little money.
That's interesting, though. That's really cool. Like, where did that come from?
I swear, this was Wizards of the Coast playbook back in 2002. I didn't invent it. Spycraft was born out of 3.5. Pathfinder was born out of 3.5. This was their original playbook, right? So it's just a matter of just extending that playbook. I was always of the opinion as well, because you laughed about, well, where did these movies come from? Well, they came from me. I didn't ask anybody. I just did what I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And that was totally true. But the thing about it is like, this is not my product anymore. So now I'm like, what do y'all want to see? You know, and so like, we did a survey of our customers, and they're like, post-apocalyptic. So we're like, cool, we're going to write a post-apocalyptic game. So we're not writing a post-apocalyptic game. Then we're like, what do you guys want to see now? And they're like, we want to see Roaring Twenties and gangsters. We're like, cool. So like, we're just following the lead of our customers in terms of what they want to see done. And for me, that just feels a lot better than me being like, no, the next game we shall produce shall be Victorian Age. So it should be said. You know, I mean, like, I don't know, just because I thought it was fun doesn't mean that everyone else is going to think it's fun. So I'll let the consumers decide what they want to see.
But your original ideas were at least proof of concept to show that like it can be done, and it can be various. It's not all just one and the same, even movie genre.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually going to be releasing a podcast pretty soon called Homebrew Heroes, where I actually interview GMs in my community that have created their own games. And some of these games are rocking cool, like amazingly innovative that I would have never thought about. So for example, there's this one guy in Australia, which actually has created a world where there's basically a post-apocalyptic event and all the tides rise and Australia gets sucked up into the water, except for the middle part, Adelaide. And that's the only community left in all of Australia.
Oh, that's cool.
And the entire industry, the entire world takes place in this one area of Australia that's left, that's no longer underwater. I could have never come up with that idea, but he did. And that's like rocking cool to me, right? So like, there's lots of really cool ideas out there. I can't cover them all. So I'm really relying on the customers and other designers to really figure that stuff out.
That's sick, dude. Like, I'm kind of at a loss for words. Like, that's not what we see anymore. And more, I find that companies in general just don't go that route. Like, we keep getting hit with a new subscription service and like, oh, great, you're subscribed, so now pay us more. And great, now pay us more. And I hope you can keep with that, you know, in 40 years when you're booming with success even more than you already have. Like, how are you going to stay true to this core that you are focused on right now? Like, what's going to be your little touchstone?
Well, part of it is that we're making tools to allow creators to create stuff faster. So we're in the process of designing our version of D&D Beyond called Sidekick. And the first thing that we've released is a digital publishing tool, which allows third-party creators to publish their own adventures on our platform. That's the first thing. They get to set their own price. They can charge free. They can charge $5. They can charge $50. They can do whatever the heck they want. And it shows up right on our platform for anyone to buy or consume. The second part of it is we're creating our own interactive character sheet, where now whenever you buy someone's game, all the capabilities of that game automatically go into the character sheet. So if you create a brand new class, it'll automatically populate in our character sheet. And now you can build a character using the class that Bozer developed. And then the third is exporting that into VTT so that now you can create tokens and maps and they get exported right into your Foundry or Roll20. So that's the long-term vision that we're coming out with. And it's all based on really leveraging and supporting the creativity of our community.
How does it's Sidekick, y'all, if you didn't catch it. Like, I'm trying to think of the programming of that. Like, how do you manage
lots of ones and zeros?
0 0 0 1 1 1 0 0 0. Yeah, I mean, listen, like so. First of all, I'm a computer science guy. I come from the tech world. There's a lot of rumors that we're using blockchain or Web3 or crypto technology. We are not. We're using traditional everyday technology to build this. But this is the exciting part. I get to spend time with engineers thinking up sort of how this works from the consumer side. And in fact, this is the fun thing. On my Discord channel, I literally am creating the interactive character sheet with my customers. So every single day I upload the code and I show them what we've done and they comment and give me feedback on it. What they like, what they don't like, so on and so forth. So we're literally crowdsourcing the development of the character sheet. And this is what I wake up and get and fall in love doing every single day.
Yeah, that's what gets you up in the morning.
And okay, I'm going to pivot the conversation a little bit because you mentioned something that unfortunately is actively against you in your world of SEO right now, which is blockchain. So again, we mentioned this off screen. We're not here. We're not trying to pin you into a corner. We're not trying to make you look bad. We're not trying to clickbait you out of any of this. But you did mention something that unfortunately, when you search evil games, the SEO is not your friend at the moment. You're aware of this. And there's kind of a lot going on in that world of being used for AI, using blockchain, selling data, things of that nature. To genuinely want to give you the chance to kind of address that situation, since the internet can be very one-sided with, oh, this is the information that we have seen, and then they're not being allowed the counter arguments available for people to have a better understanding. But I will say you did do in the AMA 2 weeks ago to try to help address these situations, which unfortunately SEO still fighting back against you pretty aggressively on that one.
Yeah, for those of you, yeah. So listen, like it's it's amazing how hard it is to build a game and to build a company in this industry, and we've had our fair share of headwinds. And listen, like there was an article that came out about a year ago, and the article had supposed a couple of things that were just inaccurate. One was that we were using blockchain technology in order to create NFTs and stuff like that. And we're not, we're not doing that sort of thing. We do have an investor that is a blockchain investor, but he didn't invest in us because of blockchain. He invested in us because he was a D&D geek and he liked what we were doing. And at one point in time, we were looking at the technology because it's an interesting technology. But under no circumstances have we decided to use that technology to build anything that we do. And then there was another rumor that came out that we're stealing people's data, which we're not. We don't have any intent to. We don't even collect that much data on people. Everything is basic information that you'd collect for anything like your name and email address. But we don't sell it. We don't give it away. We don't share it with anyone else. It's your data. You get to keep it. There's no circumstances in which we give it away, despite the rumors that are out there. And the third one, which even just came up just recently, was that we use AI art, which we've never had done. We hire really amazing artists, and those artists do everything hand drawn. In fact, every single contract that we have them sign has a no AI clause, which means that if we find that they're using AI, we can choose not to pay them, and we could fire them, and we'll never use them again. And all the artists that we've hired, I think we've commissioned 26 artists across for the 3 years that we've done. Only one has ever done that, and we fired him. Said, can't do that. That's not what we do. And part of it is because we really feel like part of the beauty of the actual art, the work that we do, is the art. Like when you take a look at the Everyday Heroes book, we get a lot of criticism over some of the art because it's too cartoony or whatever. But like that was a choice that we made, and I love that choice that we made. And that was a choice that filed into what the end product was. We're never going to take that away from our fans and consumers.
And I appreciate you addressing things like that, because there was a conversation that he and I had previously, like, hey, we try our best to keep negativity out of the platform. We're here to showcase, we're here to have a good time, but unfortunately there are situations where, like the situation you found yourself in about the last year or so, where you're in a real uphill battle, more or less just kind of you versus the internet. It was a conversation he and I had, like, how do we go into this conversation, because we don't want to be disingenuous at journalists, we don't want to be disingenuous at interviewers, because it's such a big thing, like, oh hey, look at this guy, he's perfect, he's never done anything wrong.
Yeah. And listen, I've done, for the record, I've done plenty of things wrong. I just try to not do a lot of wrong things all the time and try to make them better. Like, I'm a human being, right?
Sure.
But it's what I realize is you can't fight the internet. I mean, initially I tried to sort of respond to everybody, and it turned out that was impossible to do, and no one really cared. And a lot of my employees were just ignore it, just stop talking about it, and it'll go away. It hasn't gone away. So what we've decided is all we can do is make really good stuff, and really please the fans that we have. And then, and then get out on interviews like this and sort of show our true side, who we are and what we're trying to do, and just try to be as transparent as possible. Which is why when you said, "Hey, listen, Dave, can we talk about this?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Like, I'm an open book. We can talk about whatever you want, like, because I don't have anything to hide.
Which was a very big reassuring thing for me, because I had spoken to my wife. She's like, "How do you feel about this? Like, how are you going to go about this?" I was like, "I'm going to be honest, I don't know," because it's one of those things. You're the first that we've had a big enough like rock to kind of turn over and kind of discuss in these situations. And I don't want to be that guy like, aha, we're going to be here for clickbait. We're going to be all the drama. We're going to be your next page of headline, because that's not the purpose of this. We recognize that people make mistakes. We recognize that there might been things here that you've been accused of that you were in the wrong of, but we don't have a way of knowing that. But we want to have the opportunity that if you're not going to be a bigot, you're not going to be a racist, you're not going to be a phobic of any kind, that we give you that space like, here, let's talk on this. So people that are seeing these types of things that maybe don't know much about your company, that maybe want to get into your products, but like, oh, I don't know if I trust them. We want to have that opportunity to feel like, okay, here is a conversation we can see where we openly discuss this. Nothing was off the table, and this is our side of the story. So that way, when they're seeing these articles, they're seeing those Reddit threads, they have another source that they kind of reference against, so they can determine their truth out of the entire situation.
That's awesome. Yeah.
All of that is me saying I appreciate you being willing to talk about these types of things, because it was one of those things. I had a conversation. I was like, I don't know what I would do as the host if you're like, yeah, we're not discussing any of this. Because me personally, I'm like, that's a big red flag for me that I don't want to be associated with.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Sorry. My press secretary says that I can't answer that question.
Well, no, but it says a lot about you that you're willing to speak on these things, because it, like I said at the start, there is so many things that come with what like you're doing, what a lot of our guests do in their life, that the audience has no idea. That we as a consumer do not know how much time and the complications that go into it. And so I think it's important for anybody that maybe is trying to gain inspiration or motivation in pursuing their own passion project to know that it comes with a cost, essentially. So maybe speak on that as well. Like, as you got really excited, you saw that guy across the lunchroom, and you're like, oh my God, this can make my dream come true. Now that you're 3 years in, like, what are some of those headwinds that you called it that you maybe weren't thinking about when you started out?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like what the one thing I want to say is we're all on the same side. I know that with D&D and games, we always have good versus evil. I don't think that's how the world works. We're just trying to make a game that's fun. We price it fairly, and we hope that you have fun playing it. That's really all that it is. I mean, that's it. That's really all that it is, right? And the headwinds are incredible. And every morning I wake up to a new one, and I don't know why. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to create a product that we love, and get people out there to play it. And we're all in it because we love it. All of us could take jobs elsewhere, do other things with our lives. And we're here because we're passionate about it. And we're just here to tell great stories. So yeah, there's a lot of headwinds, I mean, part of the reason why I started to speak up is because I started getting death threats. And Jesus. Racial slurs. And then on places like Reddit and Facebook, they started threatening my customers. And I said, listen, I get that freedom of speech and everything like that, and people can say what they want, but I go, as soon as you start threatening my customers, enough is enough. And I got to jump up and say something about it, and I know I'm going to get slammed for it, because every time I say something, I'm going to get slammed for it. But you just got to stop, We actually ran a contest on Reddit where we gave away free versions of our Foundry. And we do this once a month. We did it 5 times. And this time, a guy jumped on and said, all you guys that are actually applying for the free version of it, it's a scam. And he's trying to screw you. And he's evil. And here's all these articles that are bad about him. And then went through and started downvoting all of everyone's comments and destroying everybody's comma score. And there were 60 people. All they did was just put in for a free version of the Foundry. Come on. And I was like, that's what? These guys have nothing. Why hurt these human beings that just wanted a free version of an Everyday Heroes Foundry platform?
It's definitely one of those things that I'm genuinely curious from an SEO aspect, like how do you fight back and kind of recover your name? Because again, when you just simply Google evil genius, it's not great for you, unfortunately. You're aware of this. I'm not trying to repeat beat on the drum, but I just genuine conversation of kind of moving forward. I'm genuinely curious how that is fought back against, how long that SEO gear takes to switch. So it's one of those things. It's obviously, unfortunately, going to be a very, very uphill battle. And I personally will be Googling very often because I would like to see how long that takes. Because unfortunately, with EN World, we saw the rise and the fall. So we saw a timeline of the company in itself. And it's a lot for going on year 4 for the company to exist already. So again, it's just really one of those things. Like, you have such an uphill battle against you, but just from the little bit we've emailed and having this conversation, I genuinely believe your heart is in this. I don't believe you're a bad and disingenuine person. I can tell that you are a geek at the end of the day. You're here to create something that you love, and you want to have that community to help create with you. Very, very excited to see what comes from this. Very, very excited to see all of these stories come to life. Just that side of my brain of like the internet wanting to fight back. I'm curious to see what that battle is going to look like for you in the coming years.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that, right? I mean, it's getting more of these out here, right? Where we're telling good stories and we're getting out and having good news articles out there, good stories out there that are trending positively. It's putting our head down and putting out good product. I mean, listen, I'm proud of the fact that we've sold over 50,000 copies of that Everyday Heroes core rulebook.
Hey,
congrats!
I'm proud of the fact that we've got a thriving Discord community of tens of thousands of people that play our game on a regular basis. I'm proud of the fact that we have hundreds of volunteers that actually GM for our organized play program. So, and that's the stuff you don't hear, right? When you search us, you don't see that stuff. But the community's out there. They love what we're doing. They care about it. I'm proud of the fact that we have over 1,000 5-star reviews across all the products that we sell. Across Amazon, drive-through, and what have you, right? Like that's the good news story. But the internet is a cesspool. It doesn't like those stories. It likes clickbait stories. It likes bad stories.
That was something I noticed very quickly, because again, when you search your name, not great. But the big thing I did notice specifically on drive-through was that your rating was 4.8, which kind of really goes back to that driving force of you as an individual may not like a figurehead, you may not like a company as a whole, but they can still put out a good product. And it really just goes back into like the moral compass of like, where do you as an individual draw the line between separating the art and the artist? Are you willing to, and is it okay to support a product like Everyday Heroes if you don't particularly like you as a person, Dave Scott? Like, because obviously that varies on each and every different person, because every day we're finding out a new celebrity or a new musician that you've listened to for 25 years has been a piece of shit. And I personally have a hard time. I'm okay with separating the art and the artist. My wife, on the other hand, burns every bridge. They will never pop up on YouTube. They will never pop up in any auditory video. When she has burned somebody that has done something wrong in the world, it's scorched earth. There is no separate, like, you are dead to her universe. And I think it's very, very funny to see that dichotomy of, like, yeah, those are two separate things. My wife's like, absolutely the fuck not. They're the same thing. It's done, period. We will never speak about them. We will never see them.
Yeah, but I gotta say, like whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty kind of thing. Like, for example, we just released a brand new book. It's a gorgeous book called The Kong Creature Codex, where we showcase over 50 brand new Kong adversaries from Skull Island. And we hired this amazing, amazing artist named David Chen. You can check him out at davidchengallery.com. Unbelievable guy. And he put together one of the most beautiful books I've ever seen in my entire life. One of our fans posted it on Reddit and Twitter, and everyone goes, AI art, those guys are all AI art. And that all that does is do a disservice to David Chen, who's an amazing artist, first of all.
Right.
And so now what we're doing is we're actually asking David, we're like, sorry, David, I hate to do this, but can you provide some of your sketches so we can show the process that you went through? And so he's doing that, and we're going to present those in the internet so people can see it. But why do we have to?
Yeah, and that's, again, that just kind of goes back to the pain of, because of the situation that you find yourself in, you are having to take those extra steps of that proving ground of, all right, this is what you believe. Here's our fact checking back to you of, your claim is false, but then you have to fight back. Is enough people going to see that for that to be the top comment? Is that going to be that top news review? Is that going to be that top article?
Of course not, because it's not an attractive article to say that they did their job. You know what I mean? Like, that's
right.
I'll give you an example. We've always had headwinds from day one. So when we first announced our Kickstarter, we actually got kicked off of Facebook because people complained that we lied about getting. How could one company possibly get that many licenses officially? And we got kicked off from too many complaints. That's serious.
Just because they didn't believe it. So
they didn't believe
it. Like,
that's such a wild statement with how powerful the internet is. We've seen things get removed based off IPs before they've officially launched. So for you to not only have 8 active IPs that you are currently showcasing more on the horizon, you're going to think 8 of those active IPs, 3 of which are still actively being built and pushed out in modern media. Do you think they're not going to get pulled immediately? Absolutely not.
But that, like literally, that was the first thing that happened to us when we first got started as a company. Then AI, the AI complaint has been always there. I mean, so it's funny, but like, it's been amazing how many headwinds we've had from day one, even before any negative articles came out. So I just figure that this is a hard industry to be in. But I love it. We're gonna slog it out. We're gonna keep creating great product that people love, and the people who try it are gonna love it, and we're gonna keep servicing them.
I do have one last hard-hitting question, and it's one that I'm trying my best to come up with the way to ask the question without coming off aggressive or rude. The cease and desist. Was that kind of a last straw thing for you? Was that something you thought was going to be a good idea and kind of kicked back against you? What was kind of the thought process into that decision? Because in my opinion, that's a bit of an aggressive one for the situation, but I'm also not the one taking on this brunt on the constant basis that you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, listen, so like the whole philosophy was, we didn't necessarily agree with the article. We didn't think it was fair. The person who wrote the article spent a total of 23 minutes talking to me for the entire article. Spent no time talking to any of my existing employees that stayed with the company, of which there were 8, and half of which now just celebrated their 3-year anniversary with me. So we thought it was unfair, but we ignored it. We said, listen, it'll go away. As soon as people started threatening me and my family, as soon as people started threatening my customer base and my employees, the racial epithets, the death threats, I was like, listen, enough's enough. I'm sorry. This is where I draw the line. So I wrote to the moderators of some of the negative stuff that was put out there, and I said, listen, guys, I'm getting death threats. This is not enough. Can you take this stuff down? Everyone took offense to me asking that. With Ian World, I also wanted them to revise. Usually what happens if there is an article and it's fairly inaccurate, what you do is you go to the editor and you say, hey, listen, these are the facts that are inaccurate. Here's the proof. And they write a correction.
Right.
And in fact, over my career, I've done that 30 plus times. It's always been a copacetic relationship. But what do you do when the editor is the same person who wrote the article?
Okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room to sort of appeal to a calmer mind there. So I felt like I was out of options.
Okay.
I felt like there was a danger to me and my family. I have an 8-year-old, and so I was like, listen, the article's 1 year old. We've improved as a company. Our customers love us. We've improved the way customers our employees are treated, and all this good stuff has happened. The information is no longer accurate. There were errors in the first one. We want you to take it down, or do something, or write a retraction, whatever. Mm-hmm. We didn't feel like we would have an audience for that type of request.
Okay. Again, I don't know if it was right or wrong. It was just something that I was genuinely curious because, again, I've never been in a position where I've needed to have that conversation of that much negativity being written about me. I've never gotten that much flack. It was just something when I remember seeing that article, I'm like, my initial thought was that feels like a strong reaction to negative press. But again, just wanted to give you that opportunity to speak on it, kind of showcase your side, because up to this point, you've not really had that chance to kind of be able to tell your side of this story.
Yeah, and does that make sense though? Like I felt like I had to do something. I felt like I didn't have anyone to really appeal to. So basically, we had someone write a letter saying, "Can you take this down?"
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a legal letter. It wasn't a cease and desist. It was basically a request for a takedown.
Okay, gotcha.
So it
wasn't even a whole legal thing.
No, it wasn't a legal thing. No, it was a requested takedown.
Oh, see, now I'm going to go ahead and correct my statement because I read that it was a cease and desist, and I was wrong there, and I will take that back.
But it was on the internet.
See how simple that was?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that it's what's so funny because people interpret, the headline makes it sound so dramatic and whatever, and so people take things differently from it, and so just like the AI thing. Oh, they must be doing AI. They must be stealing data. No, we're not. Of course not. So there's always the truth always lies in the middle, doesn't it?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, like, in my line of work, I do marketing too, and thankfully, like, I work in like very, for the most part, positive industries. Occasionally, we'll get some like flack like this on a very small scale, like from a single family or a single commenter or whatever they have some bug be in their bonnet about. And it's like how you deal with that kind of like negativity on the internet is a very slippery slope. And
Yes.
if you like engage with it too much, that could go too far. If you ignore it, that's too far.
And that's the problem, right? Like I'm always like, no, let me explain myself. There's a logical, and then all that does is that just gives fuel to the fire. And so the best advice is for me not to engage with it.
Yep.
Which burns me because I hate misinformation being out there. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of misinformation. So.
Yeah, it's certainly a fine line. And again, just kind of reiterating myself, a very difficult line for you to kind of be forced into with you being such a new company at this point in time still. And that just SEOs are just such a bitch to kind of like work with and deal with, and being forced, and especially to have to sit back and then just watch as the internet dictates what that SEO is going to look like.
Right.
And yeah, we've known the internet never to just be overall positive. So, but genuinely, I do appreciate your willingness to speak on this situation. Because again, as journalists or hosts or kind of whatever you want to categorize us at the end of the day, it was one of those things. Like I personally, it was ethically for me. Like I couldn't not have this conversation to just act like this whole side of that world doesn't exist. So I genuinely appreciate your willingness to speak on this.
Absolutely.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
And I'm just marveling at the fact, like you said at one point, like this is a tough industry to be in. Like, remember when D&D was like the loser table and nobody talked about it?
And now... I guess that's why I'm surprised, right? I mean, like what my vision of my experience with D&D was that it was the inclusive group. It was the one that took the misfits and the weird people and it gave them a home and it embraced them and protected them. But I do find that the D&D community online is very, very, very judgmental.
Very cliche what you think about when it comes to neckbeard.
Just the opposite of sort of like, I mean, maybe it's like, now we've got the power, so we're going to use revenge, but very opposite of my experiences, which are very, very loving and inclusive and forgiving. And that's the sad part about it. And I really am looking for that, the beauty of our industry to come back again. And it's all about, let's just get together, have a little bit of fun, do some collective storytelling, and that's what it should be all about. And that's what we're trying to create. We're trying to create those types of memories. My fondest memories are playing D&D with my buddies.
Yep.
I'm just going to tell you right now. And what I want to do is I want to create more fond memories. And if I could do that, then I will die a happy man.
And I will say, I think Everyday Heroes does exist as something that is a fantastic alternative to somebody who is anti-Wizards, fuck you, and looking to have something that's not as mainstream. And the big thing I will say is, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've read through this entire book. Have not done that yet. Never done that with any book. But as I was flipping through, I will say the character creation, I think, does a very fantastic job to get you into understanding how to play a character and how to play this game. Typically speaking, I would say D&D 5e is kind of your entry level into TTRPGs. It's a very easily understood way for people to kind of get a grasp on how these click-clock math rocks work.
Until you're trying to teach it to third graders.
Correct, because it's such a big thing that it's kind of difficult to really break down. I will say that D20 Modern and Everyday Heroes, as I was going through just like the character creator, I was like, this does a genuinely fantastic job of really breaking down how to think about your character. Because once you get to our point when you're playing for 20 plus years, that's when you start playing the mage hand carrying the loaf of bread around, because you understand how to break the game enough. But if you're coming into a TTRPG and you're like, I don't know what to do, because telling somebody you can do anything you want is such a crippling thing to do.
It's very broad.
But when you break it down to an archetype, then to a job, then to a background, you can really immerse yourself so much quicker into this character and into this world, because you finally have, I know who my character is. I know how they would respond to this, because I have A, B, and C clearly dictated, written on the wall. This is how my character would react. And it takes a lot of the nuance out of like, oh, how would my character think about that? When you have something like D&D and you're thrust into this fantasy world as compared to Everyday Heroes, where you are just playing a normal person in a real life situation, how would I as T react to the situation? What would I as a person who can't fly, who can't cast spell, who doesn't have a Glock that I can pull out of the ethereal plane to solve this problem? And that was honestly my biggest thing that I enjoyed about flipping through this. Is I was like enjoying there, but I was like, as I was going through the character creation, I was like, this is probably my ideal way to see how characters are made and how to get into the mindset of what your character would do.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We put a lot of thought into the core rulebook. You see, it's 500 pages, right? It's
yes.
About how to really conceive your characters. I gotta tell you, so in 2023, we were the 5th most popular. We had over 100 games played at Gen Con. 2024, we had over 80 games played at Gen Con.
Nice.
No one ever walked away from our tables saying this game sucked.
And that's honestly the most impressive thing, because as we've just talked about with the internet, people are very, very opinionated in this world.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're going to Gen Con to be opinionated about these games.
Yeah. People have a good time.
There was a situation where I was in Warhammer for a short stint of time before I realized I'm not rich enough to be in that hobby. And the missus and I were out at Barnes & Noble, and Barnes & Noble sells basically like a Warhammer starter kit. And as we're in the next aisle looking at other games, on the other side, it was listening to the conversation of very, very cliche, lives in their mom's basement, has not showered in several weeks, neckbeard, talking about, you cannot sell this at a bookstore. This is ruining the community. I don't want girls at my table. And my wife is saying, she's like, am I listening to this right now? And I'm like, there's no way we're not like lucid dreaming at this moment in time, because it is 2023 when this situation happened. I'm like, there's no way in hell you are sitting here in public with these dated ass opinions on people joining a very, very niche and dying hobby as is, with how expensive this fucking game is. But for you to sit here and try to gatekeep in today's day and age is absolutely asinine to me.
Yeah, let everyone do it. Everyone can paint.
No, I can't paint that small. He can. I paint big.
I gotta tell you, my son, he painted a dragon. It was unbelievable. He was 6 years old, and I was like, "You paint better than I do."
I wish I started that young. I got to get my kids into it so we can have a nerdy hobby like that. But both of my girls are incredibly impatient. The moment they fail, they give up, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to correct that sooner rather than later, because that's not the trait we want to have moving forward in life.
Start
life
on
skills.
Tiny ass paint by numbers where they're like this big. They can at least paint in a line, and they learn patience.
Yeah.
I do have a lighthearted question that we have not gotten to circle back to. How often do you get crossover between Evil Genius and Evil Hat?
Well, not only that, but isn't there Evil Beagle and Genius Games, and there's a lot. So it's funny, when I first came up with the idea, I've known Peter Atkinson for years, 20 years now. And I go, Peter, I'm going to start a company. He goes, thank God. I can't wait to have you in the industry. I go, I'm going to call it Evil Genius Games. He goes, horrible name. Please change it. And I go, but I've already have the logo and everything. He goes, no, listen. He goes, there's too many competitors with the word evil in it or the word genius in it. You're gonna get lost. And he was 100% right. So there's lots of different games. By the way, Evil Hat and Evil Beagle all make great games that I buy, I acquire, and love. And so for sure, but I do love the name. It's fun. It feels good. And so for at least now, we're Evil Genius.
To clarify, Bozer, Fate is Evil Hat.
Yes, I knew that.
Okay.
I looked at the logo once. But you know how you stood about the rest.
I was genuinely curious how you deal with that cross-up.
So you took a really guerrilla route with just getting some weird press about you. That's how you stand out. So good for you. That's a strong choice, but it's working.
I didn't want to make it too easy for myself, so I really like, how about we fuck ourselves and see if we can get out of the mud? That's my philosophy in life. Don't recommend. Don't do that.
I think you've touched on it several times tonight, but like just put a little bow around it. Like with all the headwinds that you have faced, like what keeps you going? Like why get up every day? Like put on the armor, continue making this thing that you're making with the community that you want to make it for. Like what keeps you going?
The fact that we produce a game that people love and it brings joy to people, right? So,
ooh, wrong answer. White.
Yeah, and then Mike's like, listen, like we'll get a couple dozen negative comments on Reddit, but we'll get a couple thousand customers that buy our product every single month.
Mm-hmm.
It's the silent majority that's buying our product, playing it, and falling in love with it. That's what I'm here for. I just spent and go to our Discord if you ever want to see the love. But there's a guy on our Discord who is in love with Kong and Monsterverse, and he spent 2 days Googling over our newest product and just going page by page and texting me with everything he loves about it. Like, so we created this product character called the Azure Sky Shark. And he goes, this has to be my favorite of the bunch. I love mollusks. And then a few minutes later, he's looking at the Crow of Thorns. Though I love this one. First, potentially the friendliest skull resident. And then he sees the Triconic horn, and he goes, oh, I missed this one. This has to be my favorite. And this is like this ongoing conversation we've now had for 4 days. And I just love this human being with all my heart, as he just Googles over the work product that we've created.
It is very reassuring to hear that while some would likely take this conversation, put on 4chan there, Reddit, and just call it that you're existing in your own echo chamber, to call yourself not the villain here. I do feel like that is something you kind of do have to recognize when you exist on the internet, when you're a public face, that you do need to have a little bit of your own echo chamber so you don't go crazy with trying to beat your head into the wall to make people understand your side of the story, to hear you out. Sometimes you just need people to tell you what you already know, and to kind of give you that reassurance that you just kind of need to kind of help combat that, well, let's be honest, bullshit at the end of the day. Because it's tired. It's exhausting if you're always viewed as the bad guy. It's good to hear that you have people actively in your community letting you know how much they love you, how much they care for you, how much they're there for the product. So you're not fighting this uphill battle, just feeling like you're on your own doing it.
Yeah, we have over 150 GMs that run games through our organized play program. We had over 2,000 games played through our organized play program last year. We're the second largest organized play program behind Pathfinder and Starfinder.
That's absolutely crazy numbers to hear.
It's huge. And like, that's the thing that's not going viral on the internet.
Because it's not sexy. It doesn't get clicks.
Yeah. But
we actually are the Organized Play Foundation, which was founded by Paizo. We're actually the second and the only other organization that's part of the Organized Play Foundation other than Paizo. It's us and them.
And this is where people can like log in, find other groups to play with, either locally or
we have over 100. We have over 100 retail stores across the United States, which host our games on a weekly basis. You can walk into your local retail store for free, play a game. And enjoy the game for and learn how to play Everyday Heroes.
That's so cool. Like to reiterate what T said, it's so important to have those people in your corner, because it's that silent majority. Like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like the people that are going online and saying whatever they want, whether it's true or not, like that's what you focus on. And that's what, like, when you lay your head down at night, that's what you hear in your head. But it's important for all creators out there and artists, gamers, like anybody that's pursuing a passion need to know that for the large majority of people enjoying your content, they're never going to say that to you. They're never going to tell you how much they're enjoying it because they're just existing in their own life, loving what you've done. And so if you have a moment and you know you have access to like your favorite creator, tell them. It really does help. We got one of those guys, like you said, on the Discord. Every time we release a new episode of the current campaign, Cloudscape, we get like ongoing commentary every like 3 minutes of what he's watching and listening to. And it's like at this point, he's the only person that I'm editing these things for. Like I just do it for him because I know he's watching, even though I know he's not the only one watching. He's the only one I hear from. So in my mind, this is for Farrells.
Yeah, it's so funny. You're right, Ben. So we actually have a podcast called Redemption HQ. I'm going to give a shout out to the folks at Redemption HQ. You can find it on YouTube. And every single week, they make a 2 to 3 hour podcast just talking about our game.
Wow.
And how much they love it. And they go on and on and on. And I do it for them because they are just so much in love with what we're doing. And they're huge fans. And I do it for them. So that's why I wake up every single morning.
Well, don't forget that. And I hope that you can continue to get more of that kind of positive light shown on your game, because clearly with that many 5-star ratings, it's making an impact, a positive one, on so many people's home games at their tables. They're loving what you're putting out. And so I would just encourage you, keep doing it and let us be kind of a positive voice in your ears too tonight. You're doing something right and you're striving to do even more and more right. Stay on the path because you're building this community, and that's, I think, for the right reasons and in the right way in many ways.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
I'll try. Wait, so you guys never asked me the question of the day. Can I get asked the question of the day?
Yes. What is a movie that you would love to play a TTRPG in?
Are you ready for my answer? This is actually the whole reason why Evil Genius Game was created in the first place. Honest to God.
Okay.
This movie. Are you ready? And I have actually written the adventure for it already. No one's seen it but me.
Oh, I thought that was gonna be a drum roll. Sorry, not a.
Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. That's a good
That's
one.
how Everyday Heroes came to being. Was I wanted to play 4 bouncers who had to solve problems in a small town, generate $15,000, and beat the evil Wesley in order to be able to free the small businesses of that small town, in order for them to be a prosperous little area.
Is that one of the upcoming?
It is not. No, we could never get the license. Yeah, but
I was gonna say that's
Amazon.
gotta be tough with Jake Gyllenhaal just putting out that one. I'm sure they're probably clinging to that one pretty aggressive
I don't
right now.
love the adaptation. I really do love. I love the old Patrick Swayze one. You know,
Yeah.
I got a PhD in philosophy. I love it. Love it. So yeah, that's how this whole thing got started. Roadhouse.
Well, that's how we'll know you've made it as your creator. Then we'll finally see the light of day, and we'll know the man's hit it.
I might release it under Drive Apartment or something, and it'll be my own sort
Drive
of
Apartment.
knockoff version of Roadhouse.
Street Hotel. But that sounds like a completely different.
Exactly. Street Airbnb.
It rolls right off the tongue.
Indeed.
Well, Dave, we really appreciate you coming on tonight, being super honest. Like, we were hitting you with some tough things, and you were just open and honest and had a conversation like a human. And that's really what we strive to do here, is just talk to the creator, and like the minds behind like our escapes, the things that we get to leave the dumpster fire that is the internet in our lives and flee to. So thank you so much for taking that in stride and being willing and open and honest. And I really respect that fully.
Anytime you want me on the show, I'll be here.
Well, I'm sure we're going to hear more about you or from you in the future because, like we said, after our Cloudscape campaign comes to a close, we're going to be doing some mini campaigns, one of which is going to be with Everyday Heroes because you generously sent us all that we need to have a great time. T's going to DM, so you know it's going to be good. There it is. You got to
calm down a little bit.
I'm manifesting it, T.
It'll be tolerable at a minimum.
It's going to be great.
Of course it is. I mean, 1,000 reviews can't be wrong.
I don't know. I didn't know what my story was until I pitched that idea early on about that Home Alone and the Chaos God. So I think that might be the little game we play there.
Let's go. As long as we can all do this at one point.
Totally legit.
Well, all of you at home, thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Monday night. It's been so much fun. Thank you to Shoes. Been a while. Thanks for being here. Is it Shoes? Witch Rising was here the whole time. Heroes Evermore. Thanks for hanging out at the end. DSB, of course. And if Unpredictable Tabletop. That's spam. Don't thank them.
Nope.
That's what happens when I don't look at the Twitch chat. Look at the Talk Studio chat. This means so much when you guys tune in. You join this conversation. This is what it's about. So if you're listening back or watching back, consider hanging out with us sometime. Log in, say hi, make a new friend, join our community because that's all what we're about is just encouraging you to geek out loud. Because when you geek out loud, you find your tribe. And our tribe really needs some bolstering these days, it feels like. But until next time, I am Bozer.
I'm T.
And I'm Dave.
And you just keep
geeking out.
Geeking out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.